This year's divisional round definitely had some great games, but also some pretty bad ones. Now, let me recap the games for people that didn't have the chance to watch them or just didn't want to. So, let's get into this. So, the first game of the divisional round was the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs opened the game hot with 3 straight scoring drives, in which one was led with an injured Patrick Mahomes and the other was with their backup quarterback, Chad Henne. The Chiefs came to the game as favorites, and even with an injured quarterback, walked away as winners. But there are question marks that people are asking about this game. Let me answer them for you. Patrick Mahomes is not going to be fully healthy by the AFC Championship game. He might only be 50%. That high right ankle sprain is nothing to joke about. It's something serious, and it might cost him some plays. The Chiefs will not be able to do really any bootlegs or anything that could involve Patrick Mahomes running. Patrick Mahomes won't be able to do any escapability that he's known for or trying to just step up in the pocket because his right foot might be hurting too much. Another thing, they're not going to be able to do that many outside handoffs or anything that involves him moving a lot to hand it off because he's going to be hobbling around and it's going to be a slow way to do things. So, how are the Chiefs going to play offensively? I think it's going to be a really big pocket passer presence from Mahomes this game, but I also feel like they're going to try to mix in some bootlegs to just get Patrick Mahomes' blood pumping in that ankle. Now, how did the Jacksonville Jaguars come into this game and play against the Chiefs? Well, they came into the game as underdogs with really nothing to lose. And it looked like it was going to be a shootout with the first drives from both teams in which the Jags went down the field and scored. But Jackson didn't do much until late in the first half when they kicked a field goal to give them 10 points to go into halftime down by 7. Now, how did the Jags come out of halftime? Well, they didn't score at all in the third quarter, but they did make the game interesting in the fourth. But they ended up shooting themselves in the foot with 2 costly turnovers that could have really helped them in the end as they cost themselves some points. My honest opinion on the Jags is this game is what the future could be for them. Being able to achieve a lot of things and be able to keep themselves in games, but if they had a number 1 wide receiver, I think this game could have been maybe a different outcome. I think Trevor Lawrence will definitely learn in time and how to play in these NFL playoff games as they're very different from college. And I feel he will continue to be great. I feel like he's going to be someone that the Jags are really going to depend on to winning these games. Now, the last game on the Saturday slate was the Eagles versus the Giants. The Eagles opened the game with 2 straight scoring drives and really just looked really good. The Eagles defense really played themselves a heck of a game. They kept the Giants under 250 yards of total offense and only allowed Daniel Jones to have 120 yards of total passing. This is what I expected out of the Eagles, and this is nothing that came as a shocker. People thought the Eagles were really going to dismantle the Giants and keep them from doing what they did good. So, what are the Eagles going to do against the Niners? Well, I think they're going to play great defense, and I think the rushing attack will not be able to do what they did against the Giants. I think they'll have to lean more on the passing game from Jalen Hurts, who isn't 100%, but he is a little bit better than Patrick Mahomes. So I think the passing game is what's going to keep the Eagles in the game. Now, the Giants. The Giants came into this game off a huge victory and massive underdogs, but unfortunately, they weren't able to come up with the upset. They ran into a brick wall, and they didn't move after they got hit. So, how did Daniel Jones play? Well, he didn't play great. He had 150 yards passing, and they didn't do much to get the ball out there. They allowed a lot of rushing yards from the Eagles, and they also just were on their heels a lot. But this year was a great year for the Giants. It's a great step for the future, as they were expected to come into the season 3-14, but clearly Brian Daboll had different plans for the team. And I'm glad. I'm glad to see the Giants finally doing something, and finally winning, and finally being a good team. It's good for the city of New York. And I think the fan base is sad with how the things ended to a division rival, but I think they are very happy with how the game ended and how the season went. The first game on Sunday was the Bills versus Bengals. This game was expected to be game of the week, but instead we got a butt kicking from the Bengals. What seemed to be a trend for the winning teams this week was teams scoring on their first 2 drives, in which the Bengals did, and they both were touchdowns to kick out a 14-0 lead early on. Bengals, I feel, came out firing, and it really showed, as it seemed they were just opposing their will against the Bills. And my honest opinion on this game is the Bengals were just the better team. That's it. They had the better offense today, and they had the better, just all-around defense, too. Josh Allen was not able to get much on the ground from running, and he just had empty calories through the air. Now, like I said, the Bills came in the game as favorites. but they also fumbled the bag. They played horrible and just were the worst team on Sunday. Like I said, Allen had empty calories with passing yards as it really didn't amount to much, and he had some interceptions that were just not great choices by him. He didn't really get much on the rushing game, but that's what happens when a team is going to play you like that and have a spotlight in Logan Wilson. So, what was wrong with the Bills this game? Well, I think they played with a lot of emotion, with having Damar Hamlin out and trying to just play with that emotion with him knowing he was there. And I think the Bills have a lot of question marks going into this offseason that they really need to address. Is the offense what they really want it to be? Is Ken Dorsey the problem at offensive coordinator? Is that someone that is going to get much of the blame and probably replaced? Who knows? Will Josh Allen be someone that the Bills really rely on next year? Yes. Is Stephon Diggs someone that they're going to have to worry about? Yes. He looks like he's having some problems and not really having a lot of fun with Josh Allen anymore. I think the Bills are going to be fine, but I feel like they need to address some pass rush and offensive line needs. Now, the last game of the divisional round was the 49ers versus the Cowboys. And man, was this a great game in my book. I love defensive battles, and this was one. The 49ers came into this game as favorites, and while they played great defense and decent offense, but what really matters was the offense showed up when they needed it, unlike the Cowboys. Especially in the fourth quarter for the 49ers, when the defense play was amazing in the fourth quarter, but the offensive play was spectacular. They were able to score and be able to get the ball moving. So how did the defense really affect the Cowboys? Well, they made Dak look like he's going to wet the bed out there, making dumb decisions. But they also made Zeke look like a lost puppy out there, not getting many yards per carry and also not getting many yards, period. The 49ers played really well, and I think the game against the Eagles is where we're going to see both teams try to come out firing right away, but the defense is what's going to make the difference. Whoever holds the team to the least amount of rushing yards is going to win in my book, because both teams have a really good rushing attack, and I think it's going to be reliable to have a rushing attack in this game. Now, the Dallas Cowboys. We're a team looking to advance to the championship round and hope to be able to face their division rival, the Eagles, in what would be a great game. But the Cowboys came up short. Whether the blame could be placed on Dak making bonehead decisions and not playing his best game, Kellen Moore not calling a great game, or Zeke looking like a lost puppy with only 2.6 yards per carry. I cannot reiterate this at all. 2.6 yards a carry is not good. It is not good. You cannot have your number one back doing that in a game that he is needed. So, I think Zeke really let him down and has probably played his last game as a Dallas Cowboy. I think Mike McCarthy will be on the hot seat next year, as this was a year that they were probably going to go deep, is what everybody was thinking. I think Dak might have one more year, and if he does this again in the playoffs, I don't think he'll be back after that. Kellen Moore. I think he's going to have another shot because he's someone that is good, but maybe not great in the playoffs, but I think he's going to get another year just like Mike McCarthy and Dak. Now, this game was a real big letdown for the Cowboys fan base and Jerry Jones, and I think some major changes could come this offseason and maybe even next year if they're not great in the playoffs again. You can be a good team in the regular season, but you need to show up in the playoffs, and if you're not going to, then you're going to get bounced like you did today. Now, the AFC Championship game is the Bengals versus the Chiefs. I think the Bengals are going to be back-to-back AFC champions and go to the Super Bowl again. I think Patrick Mahomes' injury is going to be too huge, and they're not going to be able to do what they normally do. And I think the Bengals, just having a really healthy team as the offensive line, are going to be able to just achieve what they want to and be able to just beat the Chiefs. Now, the NFC Championship game, which I think is probably going to be game of the week, game of the day, game of the year maybe. I feel like both defenses are going to come in there ready to fight and just ready to crawl and scratch and just rip each other's heads off. But I think the offenses are what's going to make a difference. And I think the Eagles are going to walk away victorious because they have more firepower and, in my opinion, a better quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts' rushing ability is what's going to keep him in the game and what's probably going to really help them. I think Brock Purdy will have himself a good game, but not to the Jalen Hurts' level. I think Hurts will be able to walk away victorious and show what it's like to have a true number one quarterback that can rush the ball and pass really well. So, those are my predictions. That's my recap. I thank you all for watching. go ahead and click the like button down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and click the subscribe button and notification bell so that way you're notified for any videos that may be happening in the near future. Have a good day, everyone.